matches coming up today. Between the last matches, we have the costume competition, and now we have a little bit of a special treat before we get into that lower bracket match.
A special treat indeed, Sean. It's time for a battle like no other. You've had 5 players in these booths, 5 versus 5. How about we do 1 versus 1 like you've never seen before? It is my absolute pleasure, and please raise the decibel levels, raise the roof as we introduce your first champion. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Dendy! But now he needs an opponent for this 1v1. Who will stand the test of Dendy on this main stage? Strap yourselves in, ladies and gentlemen, because it's time to meet Dendy's opponent. What? Oh, man. It really doesn't make sense. Dendy, can you comprehend the idea of a bot being better than you?
Come on,
Yep,
it's just a
he's
bot.
in game, it's just a bot. I am joined, let's get the introductions out of the way. I'm joined by 2 guys from OpenAI, a 10-man team who have been working on this. We have Greg and Jakub. Does Dendy have a chance versus your AI?
There's always a chance.
Okay, we'll be talking more about how on earth this has come to be, but first, I want to get this first game underway. 2 kills or a tower, Dendy? That's not hard, right?
Sounds super easy against a bot, right? Scary. He's dominating.
Are you scared of a bot here? Oh! Did it just fake him out?
It definitely does that.
Sneaky bot.
He's going in.
I'm dead.
Oh! First to 2 kills.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Oh, no, no, no! No! The hands are shaking. Dendy, are you giving up?
Yep, he's too strong.
Guys, let's give a round of applause. OpenAI have beaten the world's best Dota players with this machine.
So let me tell you the next step in the project. Next step in the project is 5v5. So just wait for next year's international.
Now we'll see how that one's going to go down. One more time, OpenAI, Dendy 1v1.
No, not artificial overt intelligence. Nope. If we really... I remember when I read Alan Turing's 1950 paper on the Turing test. He said that imagine if we could have a machine that would not be programmed with a solution that we really understand, but it would learn its own solution. And the idea that you could actually have a machine that would be able to solve problems that I couldn't understand, that became the thing that I wanted to work on.
I always wanted to work on AI and push the limits of what computers can do. Around the release of AlphaGo, I realized that deep learning is actually a technology that might go very far.
Before coming to OpenAI, I was building large distributed data processing systems. And before that, I was working as a data scientist. And before that, I was working in finance, actually, at Morgan Stanley. So been a sort of circuitous route coming here.
I was actually a mobile developer working on iPhone apps. And I wanted to work on something new and exciting. I want to feel like I'm working in the Wild West.
In school, I actually did a PhD in theoretical particle physics. And then I moved to software engineering. And then I felt like I wanted to go a little more towards research, so I came here to do AI research.
Before I joined OpenAI, I was making a living out of playing poker professionally. I played games professionally, made a living out of winning programming contests. OpenAI is my first real job.
AI is everywhere around us. Almost every tech platform that we use today uses some kind of artificial intelligence. Netflix uses AI. Same thing with YouTube. Siri, Alexa, all voice assistants. Google and Facebook also use AI.
For starters, we should talk about what artificial intelligence is. There's this big question in the field about what is artificial intelligence. I would define artificial intelligence as trying to get computers to do things that humans are currently better at. Things like image recognition, natural language processing, these are computers.
Almost everything that we currently understand to be artificial intelligence is a very small subdivision of the field called machine learning. A classic example is cat versus dog photos. So you can show the computer tons of cat photos and say, like, these are cats. And then show them a ton of dog photos and say, these are dogs. And then the computer uses statistics to figure out, okay, when the pixels are this way, I now know that this must be a cat. And when the pixels are the other way, it must be a dog.
We open our phone, it's face recognition. That's machine learning. Our mail gets sorted with visual recognition powered by machine learning. But these are examples of machine learning pattern recognition. And there's this whole other kind of machine learning where it's not just about pattern recognition, it's about learning to achieve goals. For example, learning to win a game.
Oh, this is it, right?
There's this really long history of using games as a benchmark for AI. The reason for it is very simple. At the end of the day, AI progress is really driven by having hard problems to solve.
I don't really know how to play chess, but I know the rules. And it's enough for me to know the rules, to write a program that can play chess, and if I can play chess better, then I can play it. And that to me is just so fascinating that I can write a piece of code that then outsmarts me. And I think, of course, chess is exciting, but that opens up many opportunities for, well, what else can we write code for that then all of a sudden can solve the problem better than we can?
Deep Blue beat the world champion back in the 90s. AlphaGo pushed the limits of AI to a point where they'd never been before. It is possible to beat humans just with plain old planning and just tree search, which is basically like all the possibilities, okay, and then all the possibilities there, okay, and then all the possibilities there, and you just find the best path.
For a game like chess, people usually measure what's called the branching factor, which is at each turn, how many moves are there that are valid? And in chess, the number works out to something like a couple dozen, maybe 10 or 20 or 30, something around there. For something like Dota, the number starts to look more like 1,000, 10,000. And what it really means is that the neural network can't be looking through all of the possibilities. Instead, the neural network has to have something that looks a lot more like human intuition. It looks at the state of the world and it just figures out what to do from there.
Whoever wants to. Okay.
A good part of my research is on solving imperfect information games. It's not really about the recreational games themselves. It's about building techniques that can deal with imperfect information, deception, and so on. What I should do depends on what the others are. They know things that I don't know, and I know things that they don't know.
Working on poker AIs, for example, it's not about developing an AI that can play poker. It's about situations that involve hidden information. Hidden information is ubiquitous in the real world. You see it in negotiations, you see it even in self-driving cars. You might not see the car in front of you or know what the goal is of the car next to you if they're trying to merge into your lane or not.
AI is in this place right now where we have all these really cool tools, and it's great at solving these small baby environments, Atari games like Pong and Pac-Man. And so we're trying to see how much our current tools can do on things where you have real-time actions to make choices quickly with imperfect information. All these things that bring it closer to what you might think an AI interacting in the real world would have to deal with.
Dota is a competitive, team-based video game where you have two teams with 5 aside. You both have a base that you're defending. Dota stands for Defense of the Ancients. You both have an ancient, and the aim of the game is to destroy the enemy's ancient.
Dota, the way I like to put it, is a mixture between chess and basketball. It's a fast-paced strategy, but it's also a team sport.
Dota is super hard to learn and even harder to master. It's one of the most complex games out there, maybe the most complex game.
It's a square map. The ancients are in the bottom left corner and the top right corner. You have a lane straight down the middle, 2 lanes that go across the edge of the square. The map is always the same. There's one map in Dota 2. It sounds boring, but it isn't, because there's a lot of other variables.
There are almost 120 different heroes, each with unique abilities. Every game is unique. Every game has different strategies being implemented. There are all kinds of different movements that you have to make in a split second. You have to react fast. You have to understand how to communicate and work with your team.
And of course, whilst the game's going on, your heroes, they level up, they gain new abilities, the abilities get stronger, you gain gold that you use to buy items which improve your abilities.
It's a constant ball of micro decisions that are made like at every step of the game, and those decisions are made not by one person but by 10 people. Every decision has an impact, and a large portion of that is assumptions.
When the game starts, you don't see half the map, and that goes for both teams. We have a high ground and a low ground. If you have a high ground and you're looking down, you can look at a guy who can't look back at you. There's also a day and night cycle in Dota, and certain heroes have different vision during day and night. Very complex system that just keeps adding more and more layers.
I mean, I'm sitting here, it's been 10 years of me like dedicating my life to the game and really pushing it as hard as I can. And I'm still learning on a daily basis, like truly learning about the game, the mechanics, all of it.
But once you do start learning the game, you realize how beautifully complex the game is and how many opportunities there are to be able to create your own story within the game, to show your own style, show your own personality in a way.
So when I first played OpenAI, I was a little bit shocked, I would say, in a way. He would use any small advantage that he would get on you. He will not lose it. Like a human can miss some advantage parts in special microseconds, but bot will not.
1v1 mid-match is very mechanical. There are a lot of fine-tuned tactics, but an AI, of course, with its perfect reaction timings, would do very well in that matchup. 5-on-5, that's a lot different.
The goal was always to solve this very hard game that seemed kind of like right at the edge of what might be possible. Maybe it's a little impossible, or it would take a little while to get it to work. And so the goal was always 5v5. Greg kind of like laid down the gauntlet a little at the end, where he was like, we'll see you next year. Like, we'll be back with 5v5 next year.
No one from the team knew it's going to happen. So when we heard that, everyone was looking at each other like, we're screwed.
Yeah, so no idea. And we're all in the back being like, oh boy, we haven't really thought about it.
It's way more complicated problem. My thought was that this is very ambitious.
It was definitely bold. I definitely thought it was too much. I didn't think we'd have anything to present within a year.
I've been playing Dota for more than half my life now, and the game is so complex. There's so many nuances and possible strategies, possible things you can do.
No matter how perfect their reaction timing would be, I couldn't see how they could actually take on a group of 5 players. That seems something that is, okay, maybe a few years down the line.
I mean, you guys are way ahead of yourselves. Like, come on, like, you know, like, just let's be realistic for a second. That's not happening.
Each hero's advantage is given by that guy's reward plus V2 minus 2, whatever it is. And your combined value function went from V1 to V2.
What OpenAI 5 is this massive reinforcement learning project. Reinforcement learning is basically just trial and error and really good memory. Can you imagine yourself if you were trying to navigate San Francisco and you were driving and every day you're like, man, 5 o'clock, it gets really bad around this time, I should not be driving, and you'd remember that. And that's basically what the bot is doing.
Is that right? We give it 2 broad types of things. First of all, the game is designed to be played by humans, and so we have to translate that into an array of numbers. The unit's health and their positions and which way they're facing and what abilities they have. And then there's a second half of that, which is all the actions you can take are designed to be played by a human, where you click over here, you enter this keyboard. And we again have to translate those into numbers the model can produce. because neural networks just take a bunch of numbers and produce another bunch of numbers.
When you look at a game of Dota, even if you've never played before, you see trees, you see heroes, you see creeps, there are towers that hit things. I mean, the bot doesn't know any of that, right? Like, it cannot differentiate between a tower and a creep and a hero. Like, it's all just some random number to it. It's completely blind in some sense.
What's interesting about the AI is it learns in a very different way than humans. Like, a human can go from having zero knowledge about the game to decent with just reading things or watching things or trying to replicate what you see other people do. The bot doesn't really get exposed to any of that, so at first it just seems like they're moving around kind of randomly. They don't make good decisions because they don't have anything to replicate off of.
Keep in mind that when humans learn to play these games, we have like all these things we already know about the world, like all these things about like how space and time works, what it means to be to the left of something, right? Our agent needs to understand all of those elemental concepts from scratch.
Reinforcement learning is this idea that you can kind of reward good behavior over time, and the AI can become better at performing that good behavior.
Imagine you're training a pet and you want him to like learn to sit or do some other tricks. You're not gonna go literally move every single muscle on your dog. You tell him to sit, and then if he kind of moves in a vaguely sitty direction, you give him a treat. Over time, it learns that when you say sit, it should drop its butt or it should put its paws in a particular way. And it figures kind of all this out, trying to optimize for like that reward that you're giving it.
And so, for example, they get some gold and they get a reward and they're like, oh, that was great, let me try and get more gold. Or they do some damage and they get a reward. And so this kind of like leads them towards the ultimate goal of winning the game.
But there's always the danger that if there's too many things to randomly explore through trial and error, you just might take forever and not really seeing anything.
For example, you give it like a very, very narrow bridge, and then there's like a goal at the end of it. It will just like keep falling all the time if it's like walking randomly on this bridge, right? Just going to learn like, oh, every time I go to this bridge, I fall off and die. If you vary the length of this bridge now, that's a different story. Sometimes the bridge is going to be small, and sometimes the agent is gonna have 10% chance to just random walk till I get to the end. And it's gonna be like, oh, gold, like I should try it.
Dota is a very complicated game. There's lots of features, lots of things you can do that aren't core to the game, but they're actually important to the strategy. So like any big software engineering project, we started with the smallest bit that would work. We'll take out some of the items that are more confusing, take out the Roshan monster in the middle of the map, take out all the heroes except for 5 of them, so just have the fixed set of 5 heroes that play against each other. And we started with that. And then we, over time, sort of gradually add this bit back in, add that bit back in.
All the subtlety of the game, as seen by humans, happens when you add those features in. I think similar to how you wouldn't want to play Go on a minified board, you want to play the real Go game. We want to know that we can actually fulfill the real challenge. The benchmark event was this interesting chance to play against a bunch of players that had not played together as a team, but who were each known for having been either former professional, semi-professional, or really strong casters. And we would be playing full games of Dota in front of Twitch and a live audience and a bunch of players that know a lot about the game and could point out obvious flaws.
I remember I was pretty nervous because I didn't want to lose. There was a good amount of people there, and they're all hoping you win. I mean, I'd hope they thought we'd win, because I felt like we were the underdogs going in.
Hey, Brooke, when do you need to know if we're taking first pick or all that jazz by?
As soon as possible.
Because we would like to see, hi Chrissy, we would like to see the bot play the audience game 1. Can we tell you after that?
You're not watching that game.
We're not watching that game? No. Why not?
Because then you'll know what to do.
That's the entire point.
We are getting ready for the first of 3 games of excitement between these two teams, OpenAI and, of course, the humans. Well, it looks like we do actually have the draft beginning. As a bit of an update, the OpenAI will pick heroes in response regarding what the humans are picking.
The benchmark event was also a chance for us to show what drafting looked like.
Just before the benchmark, we had increased from just 5 to a pool of 18 heroes at that point.
The richness of the game that you see in professional play is this kind of rock, paper, scissors, or this clever adjoining of like different characters.
Before every game, teams take turn to pick and ban heroes from the hero pool. That's an incredibly important part of the game because certain heroes will be very, very strong alongside another hero and also obviously very strong against a certain hero.
Humans are opening with an Earthshaker. OpenAI has been picking that a lot today in terms of all the drafts that I've seen.
Someone else on our team had the idea to use the model's perception of whether or not it was going to win a game on the first minute to decide whether or not a team was good.
Look at that! The percentage has just gone up in milliseconds, 80, 90, 95.
He changed his mind 3 times in a fraction of a second.
That's
He's like,
a lot of confidence from OpenAI, but here we go. This is going to be fun indeed.
Crystal Maiden is in trouble.
Oh, another dive in, another hex, and another kill. Second one there for OpenAI on this top lane. Fog gets the Fissure out. He does get healed up. We're going to see the rest of the team continue to try and fight. Blitz turns for the raises. The Assassinate coming through with the blast. The bounces, it's enough. That's going to be the SF gone. The humans, they're already down 2 heroes here. Boom trying to get to the center, but he still has the Reaper side available. Lays it down as Lich will get the kill, but he still ends up falling. So OpenAI will come out on top, but a very, very close team fight there between the 2 sides.
What about the win probability?
I was going to say, have they sort of lost their confidence? No, it's actually gone up. Yes. All right, we're struggling a little bit. We're going to win 98% chance. Bogged, he's getting trapped in there. OpenAI trapping the humans, taking down 3 of them.
I think it was halfway through the first game and we were winning. It was almost like magical. It was like, this thing, it's working, you know? These guys were really, really good and we were beating them.
It's a 5k advantage, 24-4 now.
They've managed to find Malini. Fog desperately wanting this sniper, but OpenAI, they juke him out. Turn around, he's ready to turn and punch back. As Fog Willful can't get the Fissure out. OpenAI laughs in his face.
Wave is dead, so they're going to have to take the tower at least.
Fog tries to Lich, but instant hex! He instantly gets hex there by the line. He will get the Echo Slam out. As 4 dead, they'll look for the 5th as OpenAI wipe them. GG will be called 21 minutes in. OpenAI will take game 1.
I fucked up once. Really bad on that.
The speed at which OpenAI plays that is just so quick. Normally in Dota, we almost have like a reset time. Like once one action occurs, there's like a period where you have some time, at least a little bit, to think. But OpenAI just it continuously assails you.
When we first started thinking about show matches, we were trying to figure out ways in which we could make it more obvious what the bot was thinking. We started to make it more public what they thought their win probability was, because that just seemed like the most straightforward way of like, do you feel like you're winning right now? Are things going well or are things going poorly? It became this thing that sort of seemed like it was taunting the humans, even though we were really just trying to surface the information about how the bots were playing.
Game 2 of OpenAI versus Team Human here at this benchmark. As we see Blitz there trying to match OpenAI with their level of all chatting.
What is it actually, though?
We can actually check the real stats. And it's just a 92. It's a little conservative, hold it back a little bit.
This is 3% better than it was last game. All right, can they initiate the right way? Oh, this is really bad for Sniper here. Is he blocked in? Oh, this is a dead hero. Wow.
Blitz, first blood there thanks to Moon Meander's setup with the Fissure. Hang on, jumps in the Echo! Moon, the combo, the slam, the 2! They got them there! Human. The OpenAI dropping the 99% now upon Team Human. There's the jump, they'll try. Have they got enough damage though between the 2 of them? They have, and that's going to be the Shaker gone. Blitz taken down as well. Everybody on OpenAI survives. OpenAI take 4 once again. GG is called, and game 2 will also go to OpenAI.
It was kind of stunning because we lost so fast. Everyone was murmuring, and I'm assuming they were talking shit about how badly we got stomped. I would. I'd laugh at those guys, you know? They just got crushed in 20 minutes. How embarrassing.
I really wanted to come into this one and win, but it was really cool and humbling to actually just get kind of crushed and dominated in the first 2 games, so
I was like really taken aback, like this is like really impressive that they managed to actually like not just make a really good bot, but it owned me really hard.
It was very different from playing against humans.
just because of the fact that it felt like they could understand threats or the lack of threats and judge perfectly when to be able to just go and attack you.
It was just fascinating when the AI would do something that a human player would never do. The way they played was very aggressive. It would have a fight that to us would maybe not look like a good fight. Obviously, you win a fight, it doesn't mean you win the game. You know, and the AI was, you know, it would take sometimes bad fights because it knew it was able to achieve something elsewhere or something off the back of it.
It was the weirdest Dota match I've ever played, for sure. I would call it Dota in like the lightest sense. Maybe it's just me protecting my own ego since we got whooped so badly, but the game was very different.
Definitely my first impression was, oh, you know, there's all these restrictions in place, there's a limited hero pool. That didn't really mirror what competitive Dota is. But ultimately, you kind of watch the game and then you realize like, holy crap, the way they move and the way they're playing, like everything they were doing inside the game made sense, and a lot of it had never been seen before. They completely ran over the human team.
I think that we sort of had an idea that the Dota community was interested. They were well aware that we weren't playing real Dota and were very happy to tell us about that. But for the most part, it was pretty positive because we were getting a lot further than people expected us to.
And then we never had time to celebrate because we were still in crunch time for TI. So no time for rest.
I think time is really the enemy here. We have only limited time till TI, right?
Right. It's like approaching like every day. Oh, we can have like Philip go up to the board and write like 32, and everybody's like, oh fuck, Philip, what are you doing? Push TI back, and he's like, no, bring it closer.
When we started this project, no one had any idea how we were supposed to solve it. We just knew that this was an important problem. If we could solve it, it would be a big deal, and that we'd have to do something no one had done before.
Working on deep learning in general is very susceptible to bugs because you are working with systems that are able to take any sort of data and usually make something useful out of it. So even if your data is corrupted or your learning algorithm isn't really, has some bugs, it's still likely that the model will be learning, and it will be hard to tell whether it's learning poorly because the problem is hard or because you have some errors in your pipeline.
The whole team was very excited about this evolutionary strategies algorithm. An algorithm that is simpler than reinforcement learning, but the premise was that hey, you can take this simple code and run it in parallel, run it on many computers, and the sheer scale of things will actually make it produce really good results.
Before, switching to all these alternate approaches, we just wanted to check, just to be sure what happens when you actually, run these algorithms on some significant number of CPUs.
Jakob and Shippuden did this really amazing thing of questioning all the conventional wisdom. That I was trying to convince them to work on Dota on this game, and they said, let's try scaling up reinforcement learning.
Initially, Greg was very skeptical, so he actually asked us to make sure that we don't devote more than half the time to that project.
And so we actually sort of hid in a secluded part of the office for a week or two, started working on a distributed learning system we called Rapid to make running these experiments easier and maybe scale to like 10 machines or something.
And that was the beginning of it.
I think it's actually a really awesome story for how progress happens in this field. There's conventional wisdom, and Jakob and Shippuden asked the question of why. Why do we believe that? Has anyone ever tested it? And they just kept pushing and pushing us to larger scale.
And that was pretty much our mindset from the beginning, that we want to take this technology, we want to push it as far as we can. When it breaks, we'll have a problem to work on. It hasn't actually broken. We started out running on just a couple machines with 30 CPUs. Shortly thereafter, we reached 1,000 CPUs, and we actually started getting really good performance. Yeah, so the scale of our mission grew. And by the time we were using like 30,000 CPUs, we can actually tackle best human players in a game of 1v1. We were like, okay, so maybe if we use 10 times more, we'll actually be able to take on the full game. By the end of the project, we were using 300,000 CPUs and 2,000 of the latest graphic cards.
We need a lot of computers to see a lot of different games. Is essentially what allows us to discover new strategies. So without scale, nothing works. And that's usually not a dimension that you see in other machine learning problems.
The way that we train this system is through a very simple idea called self-play. Imagine if you are trying to learn to play tennis and you play against Serena Williams. You're not gonna learn anything, right? Like you're just gonna, no matter what you try, even if it was a good idea, you're just gonna lose. And Serena's definitely not gonna learn anything from you. And so what's really important is that you have balance, right? That if you played against an exact copy of yourself and you tried things out and you came up with an innovation that was a slightly good idea, you'll actually see that turn into you getting more points. That's exactly how this system works. It plays against copies of itself, and because it's just a computer system, we're able to replicate it many, many times off in the cloud. For our 5v5 bot, we're playing about 180 years worth of Dota gameplay every day.
The origin of Dota really goes back to one individual and eventually a group of individuals' passion project. It was a custom game made inside the Warcraft 3 platform, which was a video game itself made by Blizzard that allowed users to create their own custom mini-games. At that point, esports, I would say, was just kind of starting its very quick upwards trajectory. It was growing at an exponential rate. Live streaming was becoming a huge thing with platforms like YouTube, Twitch TV, and Dota 1 was a small niche custom game inside another competitive video game that had a huge audience of its own. When the International first started, it kind of became to be because Valve, the developer of Dota 2, wanted to make a really big splash with this new big game title.
They brought in this tournament that had a prize pool of $1 million, and back then that was unheard of. People actually thought it was a scam.
The prize pool that players had been competing for at tournaments before the International was a fraction of that. They were competing for $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 at the most, so a $1 million tournament was just game-changing.
It was a huge incentive for a lot of professional players who at the time were playing more for the love of the game. They were in college or high school and this was what they were doing on the side. And sure, maybe they got a trip to, Sweden. They were going to DreamHack or something like, oh, that's really cool, but it wasn't a career. Once that kind of money started coming around, people were able to sit down and look at it and go, okay, I can actually commit full time to being in esports.
TI3, Valve introduced something called the Compendium. It's a mechanic within the game, and it basically gives the community a way to purchase stuff and make this makes the tournament community funded. And since then, it's been continuously breaking the record with its own prize pool and with its own size. I've been blessed enough to have been at every TI since the first one that I went to, which was TI3, and yeah, it just keeps getting bigger, man. It keeps getting bigger and bigger.
And the big thing that changed over the year was adding that element of professionalism structure. So today, you see teams, they have professional coaches, they have training staff, they have a support system around them to help their players compete at the highest level.
All of these players, it's not like they just played their favorite video game, they were pretty good at it, showed up and started winning millions of dollars. No, these are people who very often have a background in traditional sports, who played basketball in high school or were on their football team. And what really drives them the most is competition.
TI today is one of the biggest esports tournaments in the world. It is the most prize money any individual esports competitor can earn on a given day.
It's always going to be a pinnacle of esports. And part of that is the money. You can't get away from the money. It's so much money. It's so much money.
It is a huge celebration of what Dota is and has become. It's about celebrating the game. It's about giving back to the fans, the community, the ones who kind of grew the game to what it is. It features contributions from the community, from all the different people in different areas, commentators, producers, content creators.
There's always 17,000 people and always sells out. Regardless where it goes around the world, people will travel, the locals will come, and the stadium will be absolutely packed.
Okay, so what should we do? We're still trying to repro, right? And understand what's
going on. So some of us should repro.
I can try doing the necro fight. Usually when you train a system like this, be it a bot to play a game or like a computer vision system that's like trying to figure out, is that a cat, is that a dog? You figure out your data set for the problem, and then you initialize a model like a neural net with random weights.
He does have that thing. He does have a...
You do this training process. You start with it behaving randomly, trains for a long time, and becomes very good. You're like, great, that was good. You take that, you play against humans, you do whatever you're going to do with it. And then you have some idea of how to make it better. You say, this time we're going to change how this system works. We're going to add this feature. We're going to do something cooler and new. You start from the beginning, the random behavior, totally garbage play, and then it becomes better and better and better, and hopefully by the end it gets even better than your previous one.
At some point we decided, like the scale of this problem is so large and we have so little time that if we were to do the train from scratch process, we think it would take maybe a month to get back to where we are now every single time. And so the approach that we adopted was, instead of training from scratch, we're just going to plan to keep this one experiment. We're going to start it in June. We're going to keep it running all the way through to the contest.
We have our current best bot. We want to make some change that hopefully will make it better, maybe introduce a new part of the game or change something about how the model works. With each of these features, we have to add it in, we have to do a surgery. I think we coined this word surgery, although I'm not sure. So surgery is the process of taking that existing very good agent and like changing the innards of how it behaves so it can work with the new feature that we've added in. And then we resume training from there with the new feature.
Effectively, the entire model, the brain, everything, every component, it can be distilled down to a bunch of numbers, just rows and rows and rows of numbers. That's all you need to make the bots play. What surgery does is take all these numbers, and when we add an action, effectively it adds another row somewhere, slicing in some numbers that define what the new action would be like.
One of the first tests we do after every surgery is we just watch a game. Sometimes you see it play reasonably, but if you made a mistake, you often see them, they just all walk to the left. The scarier kinds of mistakes are the ones we don't see there, where the surgery itself worked, but for some reason something goes wrong in the training and then it like gradually learns to get worse instead of learning to get better.
Between the benchmark and TI, we were trying to really think about what can we accomplish in just a few weeks to really make the biggest impact.
There were all these features of the game that were not there that would affect the rule set. And so our concern was, if we show up at TI and professional teams want to play us, but they spend their time saying how our rule set is not the real Dota, this is not going to play well even if we win.
Switching from 5 couriers to 1 courier had sort of been something that was on the table for a long time. It's definitely one of the weirdest aspects that we sort of added.
A courier is just a guy that, he's like your gopher. He just brings you stuff. In Dota, there's usually 1 courier. And it takes a while for the courier to come back and forth. It's not an instant transfer. It has to go all the way back to your base, come back with its goods. If one person uses it, it means one person can't use it.
The 5 couriers was an act of laziness on our part. When we started with 1v1, you have 1 hero, 1 courier. The obvious way of extending our implementation to handle 5 heroes was just to also have 5 couriers. And it just turned out that we kind of forgot to remove it until very late.
Professional play has a huge part of who gets to get their items first and when and how often. And there's a law of attrition also, that if the human team is not used to receiving items at 5 times or 10 times the speed of a regular game, it's going to favor the computer.
And we still weren't really prepared to have the model fully learn utilization of the courier. And so we wanted to program a logic for the courier, which actually is a pretty tough task, right? But fortunately, we had an expert in this sort of tough, weird tasks on our team in Saiho.
I could be in bed right now, but instead I'm here.
You could be helping. You could be...
You told me to do specific things, so I'm procrastinating this specific thing right now. And I was telling everyone, don't worry guys, I can do this in 1 day. It wasn't exactly 1 day.
Saiho's sad.
Oh, why that?
No, I drank all of the Coke in every fridge. There is no more Coke.
Which one?
I don't know what to do. Have you noticed that I was drinking water? That's the reason. There was no more Coke.
There was definitely a lot of stress in the office at that time.
No, I'm just trying to be an optimist. Look at this thing.
No, it's 5 couriers. It's 5 couriers.
Yeah, I agree that it's 5 couriers.
Okay, but like, if you squint, it could be 1.
No,
Very last minute, we're making these changes, and at that point, we're sort of scrambling, trying to get the model to understand that it now has just 1 courier.
Maybe we just have the Philip hack in there. Maybe Philip just did that. Maybe we just don't know.
Oh no, we do have. Oh, what the hell?
What? We have 5 couriers on courier 1?
Hold on.
No.
Yeah, we have 5 couriers.
On courier 1?
Yeah. Yeah, they're only controlling 1. Oh, look, they're only controlling 1 of them.
But we have 5.
But we have 5. We have 4 at the base. Or probably, there's non-zero number at the base.
Right before.
Shit.
But do we even really know that we're going to be at all good on single courier?
Okay, we won't be very bad for sure, but we have to remember that we have an edge because we have 5 couriers. So it's even if we have a good single courier implementation, we are losing that edge, basically.
Yeah.
When we went to the single courier world, not only did the single courier itself have to do something sane, which was the part that Saiho worked on, was the scripting behind that, but it also meant that the heroes had to play a little bit differently.
Now our bots have to learn to play with it, because now our bots have to think, if you can say think, about a few additional things.
That also meant that we had to get a ton of contract teams to play against us to figure out where we stood.
Oh, we got some kills. Yeah, we're doing fine.
Yeah, we're doing perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine?
Yeah, perfectly fine.
Yesterday we tried playing a game with single courier against one of the best teams that we ever tested against. We had an interesting late game, which is the first time ever. We never seen the bot come back from a late game. Secondly, single courier worked quite well.
So good! This is so good!
Yeah, very nice. Boom.
I've never been to TI, I've never been to any large esports gaming event. I've only been, passive observer on YouTube, and that is nothing like what we saw. Experience it was just like a moment of shock for me, I guess, to take it all in, and I didn't know Dota was this popular at all.
The International is like the Super Bowl of Dota 2. You're a player, your goal is to win the International.
There's no prize pool that matches Dota 2's International. There's no event that's as prestigious. I've been playing this game for 12 years and it was always my dream to play it at International. I'd give away everything that I have so that I could have one good shot at it. Because there's nothing like it.
The moments of seeing teams up on stage, walking out after a loss or walking out after a win really had a big impact. Seeing the emotion that was on the stage, you kind of realize how important this game is to those people. It brings it from this thing that we watch every day where yeah, the AI is playing Dota again, to really showing what it meant to the individual players. And I think that was pretty cool.
Hey, I'm William. Nice to meet you. Hey, William. How do you think? Pleasure.
No, I think 1, 2, 3. Easily. Yeah.
Easily.
I think the game is too complicated for a bot to understand it this fast. I heard it hasn't played against actual pro players. I think we'll beat it. Easily, yeah. If we would lose in an actual strategical way, they just outsmart us, then I'll be scared. But if they just beat us because they're better, they just use spells faster, or they're just more coordinated.
Sure.
Then, because it depends. The players, they need to have a good day. There's bad days and good days. On a good day, you will just go 8-0, and on a bad day, you'll just go 0-8. It's so random, you know?
It seems like it's going to be a great match. It's going to be an exciting match no matter what. Just forget about the results, forget about what we've gotten done. Just the fact that like everyone has come together and really worked to make this happen. I think that's just been an amazing thing to watch. Like I think we've really gelled in a way that, you know, I think like 6 months ago, I think we were just starting to kind of get a feel for each other. I think that's something that's really awesome.
And also, win or lose, like, we have done an awesome thing and we should be proud of it. I mean, this is not about winning. We're not in the tournament. I know everyone's stressed about, like, are we going to win? Are we going to lose? We should be excited, stressed, and not, like, worried, stressed, because regardless, like, we're on stage with the best in the world, like, literally. So, we got here.
I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning, couldn't get back to sleep for 2 hours, and just lay there just thinking about this and thinking about all the things that we needed to do and, you know, all the different outcomes that we could have. And like one thing I think is so exciting is that like we are truly going to learn at the same time that the whole world does.
Everyone, it's time to line up.
For those of you who might have followed the journey of OpenAI, of course we did see OpenAI 5 a couple weeks ago before the International as a teaser of what's to come, and just some slight changes as we're going into this. The biggest one being that we will be playing with regular couriers. Continuing on, we'll have no illusions, no bottle, no rapier, no scan usage. What's going to happen is we're going to play 3 matches across 3 days, and there will be a different opponent each day. Today, first up is going to be none other than Pain Gaming.
Yeah, so apparently everybody thought to themselves, what 2 better people to be able to commentate this game than 2 humans who got their asses handed to them by the OpenAI 5.
For match 1, I was actually in the booth with Enrique and Susan because we had decided we would set up the game and then we would stand awkwardly behind them while they played.
It's 7 minutes in, OpenAI down by only 1K, and it's holding a much better pace than I expected it to.
The game started out about how we expected. There was a lot of surprise kind of in the booth. You know, the AI was doing things that they just weren't expecting.
How is this possible? What the fuck is this shit?
Now the TP start coming in from Pain. They do try and go for the call from Weehaw. Now
the
Ravage.
Ravage!
No, he actually gets ravaged up before he gets the call with a freezing field in perfect position. They just TP into disaster on the side of Pain. Weehaw does manage to cut down the gyrocopter, but instantly dies. A bad fight for Pain, and it's the first time I believe that OpenAI 5 is now ahead in network.
I think at a certain point, the humans had the correct strategy of kind of backing off a little bit, not trying to take fights, realizing that the AI was really good at these little skirmishes that were happening along the map.
OpenAI 5, though, is only 1,000 net worth up, so Pain are certainly very much in this game.
There was this back and forth going, and we were all in the stands and feeling those nervous butterflies.
I was glad that we were like in a contained booth and sealed, because you kind of like, you're able to ignore the outside roar, because it is a roar. Because we are in the booth, we don't get to see what's being shown in the screen outside, right? But we can gather what is happening from the players.
The humans continued avoiding the AI until they felt like they had enough of a gold lead to actually take the fights. And then they started seeking out the bots, and the whole control of the game sort of shifted.
Looks like Pain have figured out a way to extend it. Weehaw just continues to play this bottom lane out, waits for somebody to come in, stays around the area. If OpenAI is going to win this, they need to start setting traps.
4,000 gold lead now for Pain, and looks like it is time to push into the high ground.
Ooh, Pain is doing it. King RD getting aggressive, the double
nice
call.
On it too. They managed to catch the gyrocopter. Look how much damage HFN is putting out. So if Pain manages to force another good team fight, this could be over. We are approaching the 50-minute marker.
Pain, they want to end this game now.
And they might be able to do it too. Great hit by Duster. That'll lock things down. OpenAI 5 are down to 4. HFN takes the kill. That is 5 dead. And Pain Gaming have won the first game against OpenAI 5. And they got to have a win on the main stage. Goes to show that at least there are some humans confident enough to beat the OpenAI 5.
I kept on trying to talk about it with people, like specifically Greg, and he didn't want to talk about it. I mean, I think in general we're happy with how this one went. I feel like having another game like this would be fine because like we're just worried about getting crushed, where it feels like you can't even tell if the bot is doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And I feel like there were definitely times in that game where they were doing the right thing and they were executing well.
As someone who writes machine learning or AI, it's very rare that you show it off to an arena of 20,000 people and get to see how it works.
Usually when you work on machine learning projects, you like write a paper and like maybe you'll give a talk and people will attend and you'll have some like nice like interesting feedback from that. This is just like a different kind of thing. You built this system and now like there's 20,000 people in an arena cheering for or against it.
Listening to everyone cheering or booing, reacting to how 5 plays. It was absolutely amazing experience.
People will point out, oh, you're part of OpenAI, I saw you on stage, congratulations. That feeling that people really wanted you to win and then were supporting you and then felt, you know, a little bit sad that you lost. That's the kind of thing I didn't expect to come out of this.
Valve told us that they felt like it didn't make sense to play another pro team, which we also kind of agreed with given how Pain went. They pitched us playing against these Chinese legends, I think is what they called them.
There's a group of ex-pros that really wants to play. That are like Chinese famous all-star ex-pros. And we think fans would be really like seeing all these like kind of famous Chinese players. I think it would be super entertaining and fun for OpenAI to play.
Okay.
It's Odie Pixel, it's Bruno, it's GLaDOS, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get ourselves ready for OpenAI Game 2 here at TI, and the biggest of Chinese legends taking to the playing field here as we get to see them come back together to go up against OpenAI in this match. 3 minutes in, we're seeing 4 of OpenAI in lane after lane, just rotating around, finding these kills, crushing these lanes, just storming around the map as a full 5-man unit, OpenAI. I did opt for sort of the stats first, as in mid lane, he's getting gone on yet again. Ferrari in trouble, he's got the backup of ROTK.
Coco that bounces
he
correctly.
Cannot save him though, as that is, I believe, the 6th time Ferrari's gone down in the middle lane.
The humans need to make something happen and make something happen fast. It bears repeating, right? Like, these are TI winners. Yes. These are some of the best of the best.
Some of the best of the best.
They quickly adapted to parts of the games that they saw was unusual and sort of noticed some way of sort of using that to their advantage. At some point, I think they realized our axe was doing something very silly, and so they decided to just keep going, you know, picking off axe.
Back outside of the base, the 2 supports, Sancheng and Zhao having some fun here with the axe. They taunt him, tease him, the freezing, the holding in place as the axe should fall, and he does. The CM right click finishes him off. OpenAI's got to do something spectacular to keep control as the humans are just getting further and further ahead.
Yep. It's gonna get pretty tough.
Yeah, the gyrocopter is just dominating.
One of their characters ended up being a lot stronger than any one character on our team. And I remember watching this game and being really terrified at any encounter we would have with this one overpowered character.
Another kill for the gyrocopter.
Yeah, and the humans keep making good play after good play, understanding the rotations and just taking those heroes as they're trying to farm, as they're trying to create space.
Can OpenAI hold against the Megas, against the team?
No, I don't think you can with that lineup right now. So now there's only Witch Doctor, and he's going to die.
The Death Ward, symbolically used there in honor of his own death. As OpenAI taken down again, your Chinese legends have done it. ROTK burning, Ferrari 430, Sancheng.
Well, that was a fantastic play from them. Again, taking control of that game, having a great time with burning at that gyrocopter.
Yeah.
Yeah, RTZ maybe needs to take some.
they do? They have Chinese words for everything.
Yeah. Like you don't know the word rapier?
I just wish that we at least won one game, because I think the crunch of the weeks was pretty exhausting for a lot of people on the team. We kind of expected that things might not turn out that well, but it still would have been nice to win.
Yeah, Vancouver was hard. We didn't expect to straight up win, but we had hope.
That second game for me was just, it wasn't anything more than the previous games. Like, well, okay, we're not there yet. Can't beat an 18 yet.
TI was still, I think, a success. Even though we didn't beat any of the teams there, we did hold our own. Like, it was a struggle. You could tell they were working hard, but they still knew how to overcome them. So
there's such a massive difference between 5 very skilled players playing together and then a pro team that practices and plays full time together. The Chinese All-Star stack, there were 5 professional players, but that wasn't even a team. And Pain Gaming, you know, great bunch of lads, but they weren't really one of the best teams at that international. The fact that the AI wasn't able to beat those 2 teams, you know, certainly meant there would be a lot more work that they would have to do.
I think it kind of reset some of my thoughts a bit. Some of that initial, feeling of awe at what the bots achieved competing against the caster team, the more conventional, what was standardly understood about Dota and how to play it was what prevailed. The professional teams competing at TI8, their way of playing Dota was at least shown to be better than what OpenAI was doing at the time.
It's been 6 months since TI. The bot has gotten better. It's gotten better less quickly than it was getting better before TI, which has made us all a little bit frustrated. Before TI, there was this magical, it was like incredibly fast growth. And since then,
I have an idea, like, look, this has to work. We just need to push it harder, take it to the next level. Like, it has to work, right? And it doesn't. Sometimes people will be out of the office and the bot's just tanking and you're like, oh my God, like, what do we do? Like, we're wasting all this compute and it's getting worse.
In normal development, you just write rules, what has to happen. But here, we don't write those rules. We try to point in specific directions. This thing looks very important. It would be nice if you could spend more time with that. Hopefully, we will be better. Hopefully. Sometimes the effect is completely opposite. Actually, quite often, that's the case.
In general, the experiment I would label as kind of fragile. It's been through a lot and a bunch of other things that we want to do that just kind of like don't work out the way you want it to.
But it is much better than it was at TI. And so in about a month, we're gonna play the winners of TI in a public game.
One way or another, this will actually be the last competitive milestone for the project. And the real goal for us is never about beating teams, but the real goal for us is AI progress. We want to take this system and distill down to general purpose technologies that we're able to apply to other domains.
The power of flowers and friendship. I've done it here, ladies and gentlemen. Your grand champions of TIA. It's OG.
OG is the most recent winner of the International. They have won the biggest prize pool ever. They're just such a cool team because they were never meant to do it. A pretty big site for Dota ranked the teams in order of their chances, and OG got dead last, 18th. They had to play through in a best of 5. I think the score was 3-2. So they were one game away from not making it in the first place. They didn't look all that impressive going into it, and they did it. It was so wild. They did it.
Witnessing their success from the underdog position was just really exciting. It was pretty evident in the crowd how excited people were that you've got these underdogs that kind of just end up winning TI.
So those guys are gonna play against OpenAI, and I think they're gonna win. I mean, they're so good. They're so talented.
I sat down with one of my coworkers who's really interested in probability and odds about whether or not I thought we would beat OG. I think the number that ended up coming out was like 63%. I don't know how I feel about that number. It's lower than I would have wanted it to be going into this final match, but I think it's pretty honest.
We all watched at TI those games, like riveted watching those games, and they're really good. So I don't know. I feel uncertain.
You don't become good at these games because you have one play or one trick up your sleeve. Usually professional players will study mid-game what's going on and based on that completely adapt their way of playing.
I would say 60%, 70%.
I think we have solid like 80% chance of winning.
I'd say we have at least an 80% chance, but I hope that by the end it will be like closer to 90, 95.
I think we only have like a 30 or 40% chance. The pessimism comes from the fact that we just haven't really been able to measure progress. And we've seen all the metrics that we have in place that traditionally told us that we were doing better are currently failing.
We also, as of last week, lost against one of our test teams, which is the first time this has happened since, I think, TI. So that seems to suggest there's something possibly lurking in the shadows that's pretty scary. Yeah.
So today we're going to be playing OpenAI. This is the latest iteration as far as I know. The road to playing OpenAI in San Francisco has been a long one. We've all been on different teams throughout our individual journeys, but we got together with this iteration before the International 8 and we managed to win. So I guess this is what leads us here. Best team in the robotics versus the best team in the flesh.
Obviously it's a different aspect of Dota. And Dota is a game we're very passionate about, and we've seen a lot of stuff in Dota, obviously. We play against all the teams all over the world. Now we're playing against a new opponent, a new Dota opponent, so that's super exciting. It pushes certain aspects of the game to limits we've never seen before.
First game might be the hardest, but after that, I like to believe that we're going to know what we have to do to beat it.
You know what's funny though? We went through all this stuff that you guys are going through, like literally the exact conversation we had about Necro, about what will they do if we just cut waves. we had all this same talk. It was so funny.
Still lost?
We still lost in 20. So it's not bad. Like, it'll give you a rough game. It's just such a weird style that like even if you think through this stuff, you have to play it once to like understand what's going on.
It's about an hour before the first game starts. We are doing last-minute preparations, making sure everyone knows how to connect to the game.
I'm feeling pretty nervous going into it. I'm trying not to focus too much on the win or loss because, I mean, to be honest, it's really not main intent. Although, like, going into a game, you always want to win. You always want it to be a good game.
I feel pretty good. I'm excited. It was fun to set up the players on stage. They seem to be pretty comfortable, so yeah, I can't wait to see what happens.
We are 36 minutes away from the stream coming on. I think we're 6 minutes away from doors opening, and so then we'll fill the seats and start off with our best of 3 with OG.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the OpenAI 5 Final.
We're so loud. We're here for OpenAI 5 Finals 2019, and we have a very fun day ahead of us. Before anything else, I'd like to give the stage to Greg Brockman, who is the chairman and CTO of OpenAI.
Yeah. This is a historic moment. It's going to be the first time
that an AI has even attempted to play the world champions in an esports game. OG is just on another level relative to any other team that we've played. And so the truth is, we don't know what's going to happen either. But this event, it's really about something bigger than who wins and who loses. It's about letting people connect with a strange, exotic, but still somehow very tangible intelligences that are produced by today's rapidly progressing AI technology. So please, and just keep in mind, no matter how surprised the AIs are to us, know that we're going to be even more surprising to them. All right, let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the International 2018 champions, OG!
I'm here with Cap, and we're ready for this game one of OpenAI 5 versus OG. We've just seen the draft, Cap. It's going to be a lot of group up and go, and this is what we've seen in the past OpenAI be very strong at, this old 5-man Dota. Already up top, the action's kicking off as OpenAI will claim first blood.
Oh, jeez. Look at that.
That's already gone up quite a bit since the drafting phase.
The trash talk has already begun.
OpenAI diving past the tower. They'll find NoTel, but they dove pretty deep for this, the OpenAI. The reaction will be there from OG. They have both the combo of the SF and the Shaker to bring down the Gyrocopter. So aggressive plays from the OpenAI, but it does end up in a trade that favors OG on that top lane.
Let's just keep playing the map. Let's take a favorable fight. Keep playing the map. The easiest fight possible.
We don't need to do it.
You see Jax, he's going to look for a wraparound on mid. The setup's there with the Fisher. OpenAI's blocked in. Nowhere for the Death Prophet to run, as that will be another kill here for Thompson. OpenAI once again looking to dive in deep past the tower with this Gyrocopter and Sven combination. NoTel keeping the two of them alive as OG's able to turn, bring down the Sven. Still though, trying for this SF. Gyro desperate for the kill, but he cannot find it. As with the Fisher and the heals from NoTel. And OG again able to hold on despite the aggressive plays from the OpenAI on that top lane.
We can fight them. Pretty simple.
Yep, I just need to get here to get my item.
Do we have to fight them? No.
No, but it's what we should want to, right? I want to fucking win, so I want to fucking crush them 5v5.
There's a huge psychological aspect to Dota. When you play against other players, like a lot of players are going to be too aggressive, not aggressive enough, scared, whatever, all these human emotions. When you play against that, about the feeling I got instantly is that your ego, it's a handicap, kind of.
10 minutes in, 8 to 9, less than a 1k lead here at the moment for the AI. It's an incredibly close start to the match. See back towards mid, Thompson, and is able to chase down the CM. A big ult comes out though! Oh, that's beautiful!
Oh my god.
Oh, the OpenAI Crystal Maiden doing it big time there, and in fact they're going to get this SF as well. The Crystal Maiden going big, standing her ground. She knew she'd get those 2 kills.
For the first game, we felt like we had the game under control. We got what we wanted and needed to get ourselves in a very winning position.
Let's get the top pressure again. They're running back here.
Yeah, I think we should fight, but we need Ana.
Yeah, we're not in position yet.
And it seems like OG has found a kind of pattern to take it to the AI, but they are going to lose 2 here, it looks like.
This team, OpenAI, will not stay down. They get immediately back into the game.
The game was super close and super nerve-wracking for like a really long time until 5 gave like the 95% win probability.
As back on form, it's a 95% here for OpenAI.
From our human perspective, this is an even game, Owen. How are they saying 95%?
This game does not look one-sided. It's very even in the net worth. OpenAI, though, feeling incredibly confident with themselves, and they are going to dive in past the tower. Sven will make sure that NoTel's pushed all the way back, but OpenAI, they've got 2 more kills.
Yeah, 1 play, Gus. Keep in mind.
Oh my god.
1 play, what they're doing. We got caught several times in the game thinking that, you know what, it looks decent for them, but we probably have 5% chances to outplay them right now, or to out-execute them. So let's take that chance. And obviously that's our ego talking.
Down, NoTel, right up to the high ground. The Death Prophet has the Yule Scepter controlling Ana. Ana's going to fall as well. As OpenAI, they're into the base. It's 19 minutes in. They're taking the tier 3 tower. OG losing hero after hero once again. OpenAI now with a 28,000 net worth lead. OG's Ancient exposed. They are trying to keep them drawn away from the Ancient, but it doesn't matter. The creeps are on the Ancient. GG is called, and OpenAI take game 1, and Cap, they look pretty terrifying.
For me, the scariest thing of all was when we were talking about this looks like an even game, and AI says, no, we actually have a 95% chance to win this game. That's how superior, apparently, their analysis of that game was.
They were absolutely bang on, and pretty much from that moment onwards, it was them in the driving seat.
That was fun and stressful. I think OG was quite confident in their team fighting ability. This is the one they mentioned where the 5 can coordinate perfectly. But now OG does have a chance to really learn from this game. Like, one of the big things is that they get to learn and adjust their strategy, while we don't. We don't learn from this game at all.
OpenAI 5 versus OG Game 2.
Let's see what is going to change in the second game. We've had the different drafts. OpenAI a little less sure in comparison to as they were at the draft of game 1 this time round. Both teams sort of playing a game of a chicken here with one another, seeing who will push each other over the edge. Thompson will have the Salve.
I'm dead, I think. Just keep running.
As the chase continues top, Salve will be popped, but he gets cancelled here by the stun. OpenAI diving past the tower with the damage from the Viper and the Sven. They'll claim the Slark's life. They'll get no tail as well. The AI turning it up early here in this game too.
Oh, 95% now.
6 minutes in, OpenAI already just getting objectives much faster than they were able to in game 1. They are playing at a ferocious speed here in the second game.
For the second game, we got the real OpenAI treatment, where they got what they wanted. They got a lot of the lanes, they started grouping up, and we felt like we couldn't really play our way out of that group up.
I'm sitting there staring at the screen like, I have no idea, right? We just kept pulling off these plays.
Thompson, he's desperately looking for this Crystal Maiden, but the movement's here with the Shadow Amulet dancing herself away, utilizing to make sure that Thompson cannot get that final hit on her, continuing to use the Amulet, getting away out of this. Thompson, can he find this? He does get the vision for the Assassinate, but then Sable, the stone comes out from the cast, cancelling the Assassinate. The Crystal Maiden kept safe and alive.
Alright, that's pretty good. Fucking lost.
OG, they cannot catch a break this game. This is pure domination from OpenAI, start to potentially an early finish. 17 minutes in, there looks like there's very little chance of OG turning this one around, as OpenAI almost playing around with them at this point.
You got it. Kill Orange. Alright. Come on!
Fucking die! GG.
The Ancient will fall, and that is GG, game over. OpenAI taking game 2, taking the series 2-0, but honestly, this second game in particular, this is a fantastic example of something that, as a player of Dota 2, as a professional, you watch how OpenAI just absolutely crushed this 20 minutes of gameplay, and there's got to be a lot to learn from the way that they played this game.
I'm ecstatic. I mean, it's like not the situation that you prepare for, because you don't want to be overly optimistic. You don't want to like get your confidence up, and like, so we've been focusing for months now on the 0-2 situation, on the 1-2 situation, and to be in this spot is very exciting.
Sorry. We've been working really hard for a really long time. I'm also really tired. But I don't know, I didn't. It's been a lot of trouble the last few weeks trying to get the experiment working well. It's been difficult to get it to. We've had problems. We have training problems, and I think everyone was like really nervous about those. So I can't hold it. But it's just, we did it. You know, we did it.
Having this machine, like, being able to out-reflex you over and over and over and over and over again doesn't sit well with me. But yeah, today humans lost.
I'm trying to think, what did we do better than them today? I had a hard time coming up with stuff. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure actually, like what did we beat them at? That's pretty scary. Yes, of course. It might sound weird, but I think we're still very confident, even though we lost pretty hard today. I don't think we're at the point where we were like, wow, this is undoable. I think we're still like, oh, come on, man. Give us another game, we can still beat it.
All right, everybody, eyes right in the lens and big smiles, please. Ready? And 1, 2, 3. We're doing a lot of photos, so keep going.
As we were coming up to finals, we were trying to think of ways to give back to the community. We've asked a lot from the community, and they have given us a lot back, but we need to give them something back.
Arena was this event where anyone on the internet could play against it. And it was really exciting. Now we're like sharing it with people, letting everyone poke at it and play with it and see how it goes.
We had a lot of people playing at once. We set up streams so that you could watch them playing, and it was a little bit of an overwhelming couple of days where we were like 24/7 watching the stream, waiting for people to win.
People were playing it all over the world. Lots of players in Asia, lots of players in Eastern Europe, Western Europe. Over 7,000 competitive games played. We lost 42 games. In the 42 games that we lost, there were some patterns. You would see the same teams beating us multiple times as they figured out the strategy.
So how does this happen? How come you have this bot? One day, it beats the best human players. Next day you hear, some people on the internet were able to beat it, exploit some weaknesses somehow. It's important to think about how does this bot get its intelligence, playing against itself over and over and over. And initially, it has some strategy. It plays against itself. Strategy becomes better, better, better over time. And so there's this whole sequence of strategies it goes through. And the final bot has learned to beat all those strategies. But if now you come up with a completely different strategy, very different from anything in that sequence of strategies it has been playing against when playing itself, it's going to be surprised.
In our Liberatus project, we introduced this new kind of module, which we call the self-improver. That looks at what are the actions that the adversaries have taken, and then overnight fills its own holes in its strategy.
The bot would play against itself using that action. And so the bot was able to figure out why it was winning after it took that action. Now, this wasn't an instantaneous process. It would take some time. And in fact, it took about 12 hours for the bot to fill in this weakness. And this is incredibly important if you want to apply these techniques in the real world.
To achieve the level of reliability in your system so you can handle every possible variation in the real world is just still really, really hard. And that's exactly why we still don't have self-driving cars, because it's so hard to deal with all that variation you're going to encounter when driving.
When we first started the project, we didn't know if people would want to play against us. We didn't know if people would want to watch being at this game. I think some people were a little hesitant at first to have an AI come in and kind of like beat the game. That would sort of like take something away. But I think if you look at things like chess, which did sort of like get beaten by AI, it didn't really take away from being a really good chess player. It kind of gives back to the game itself because you can learn things.
Seeing the OpenAI bots beat OG was, at least on some level, a shock. I was taken aback. It definitely changed my perspective and how I perceive the game of Dota and just the way it can be analyzed.
I think most of us went back to watch these games. They were very interesting. Oh boy.
Oh my god. Oh, it's painful to watch actually.
Here we go. This is nightmare inducing. This is actually really interesting.
We have 4 people dead. He's the only one alive. This hero is really about to die, right? But it has a trick to like switch from being invisible to being visible.
He's kind of risking his life. I actually think Topson has him dead here.
Now he turns and uses a spell on him. Usually this would be called straight up taunting in Dota. It's like, that guy is not only beating me, he's also humiliating me, and it feels really bad. And most players would play much worse once that happens because they start getting annoyed and frustrated. And it's doing it, I mean, I'm getting annoyed watching this. Instead of running, he stands still. His friend, or I don't know, he's not his friend, whatever, like, is gonna be able to kill Topson.
It actually looks like he's baiting him in, which is just very human. Baiting is like a human term, right? So, I don't know, cueing some X-Files music right now.
In our work on poker, we often get asked, how do you program the AI to bluff? And the short answer is, we don't. Bluffing is not a psychological phenomenon. It's rather a mathematical phenomenon.
Bluffing is about probability. It's saying, I have a weak hand. If I just play it safe, I'm not going to win with this weak hand. If I bet, then I know an expectation my opponent will fold, and I will make more money than if I didn't bet. And that's all a bluff is. And so you can get an AI to learn how to bluff just by playing against itself.
Thinking about OpenAI and why it does what it does, I think is very rewarding for any team. I think every team should ask itself that now that they have the opportunity.
You play against it, you realize that it has a playstyle that is different. It's doing things that you've never done and you've never seen. Sometimes it looks extremely silly. But then again, like, are you gonna be human and be like, hey, this looks very stupid, like this is bad? Or you try to take it to the next steps, like, why is it doing this?
So us humans, we have a role system in Dota. You plan strategies according to your role division. You pick your heroes according to it. We have our position 1 and 2 that we try to buff up until they're strong enough to win the game. OpenAI, no roles, nobody cares. They have kind of a musical going on that we don't have going on at all as people for the most part. Everybody has that one item that just makes them a little bit stronger, and then they strike and try and end the game. That gave us ideas.
Then you realize that we're guilty of being stuck in a team dynamic, whereas sometimes we have to be way more flexible. It's extremely hard, and I don't think, if I had to put a number on it, it's like if OpenAI does that, like the dynamic switch at 100%, we maybe went from, I don't know, 5% to 10%, but that is already a difference. We've noticed it.
OG are in the tier 2 tower. They have friends to help them out. Thompson, he's the man that's going into the fountain once again. This is soul-breaking. GG. Okay.
In 2019 at the International, Team OG showed up with the same roster, but once again, they weren't favorites to win the tournament.
The season leading into the International did not go so well for them. I personally did not back them. There were so many other teams that were dominant throughout the season.
Together you stand, together you die, and together you GG. Newbie are out, OG have knocked them down to the lower bracket.
I think sort of after the first few days of main event, people were like, all right, they're gonna do it again.
They proved me wrong in the most spectacular way. They gained a lot of ground throughout the group stage, and then they went into playoffs and just demolished everybody.
OG in the upper bracket finals, bring down LGD. OG are going to the grand finals for the second year in a row.
I mean, they did have something that allowed them to win, and you know, this X Factor, everybody's always looking for it, and maybe OpenAI found it, and maybe professional teams can learn from it.
OG, you thought you saw it all in game 2, you thought you saw it all in game 3, there it is, gone! OG are your two-time TI champions, they've done it, folks!
And in what a fashion! These last 3 games didn't even seem close.
One of the reasons why it was so impressive, no one had been able to do it. No team had won it back-to-back. No team had won it 2 times at all. And, you know, really has cemented themselves as, you know, this 5 stack of players is the best team of all time in Dota 2.
Most exciting part of the day.
Look at all the things that happen when you come.
When we trained the OG bot, we basically trained this one system continuously for 10 months. There were a lot of minor to major code changes over the course of that time, but the lineage of the bot is like you can trace it back all the way to these random parameters that we started with in July of 2018.
When you look at the game of Dota, there's all these classical AI research problems. There is long horizons, 20,000 steps to play the game. There is partial observability. You don't get to see everything that's happening. And then what you observe is still very large. 10,000 plus variables every moment that your system has to take in. Most researchers, including me, would think, hey, probably you're gonna need new methodologies to solve this. But OpenAI took the bet and said, hey, what if we just really scale this up? And sure, a ridiculous amount of self-play was done, a ridiculous amount of data, but they showed that actually if you do scale this up, you don't need these new methods. Existing reinforcement learning was shown good enough to crack this problem.
There's this concept of sample efficiency. How many times do you have to try something out before you really learn it?
This is going to be one of the major challenges for AI research going forward. How do we make these algorithms more sample efficient? Because when you're acting in the real world, you're not able to collect trillions of examples. You're not able to play trillions of games of Dota 2. We need to have this sample efficiency where we can collect data from real world experiences. And once we're able to do that, then suddenly it unlocks a lot of opportunities for AI to be deployed in real world situations where we don't have an exact model.
I think one of these will be some sort of background knowledge. What is the assumed structure that people just commonly understand is in the world, so that you don't have to learn everything the hard way.
Dota helped us create this large-scale reinforcement learning technology and the techniques to really make it shine. We actually took that, we applied it to physical robotics, and so we were able to solve a robotics problem of controlling a robotic hand that no one had been able to solve for many decades. And now, actually, the robotics team has taken the next step and has been able to not just control a hand to do a simple task of manipulating a block, but they can actually solve an entire Rubik's Cube. And so the complexity of tasks that we're able to solve just keeps marching up and to the right.
It's really cool to work on a very hard problem that you don't believe it's possible, and then suddenly, like with small steps, it looks like it's more and more probable that it's going to happen. And it's suddenly achievable, and then because it's achievable, it's no longer interesting. So personally, I am just waiting for the next project because obviously this one is easy, we've done it, like who cares? I just want to have next impossible task. And